I'm now joined by Peter Beyer. He is the Transatlantic coordinator for the German government. Thank you very much, Peter Beyer, for being with us. Now, I do have to explain to our viewers that he is in a position which is something that Germany hasn't seen that often, if ever, that a member of the Conservative Party that is not part of the current government is actually coordinating the transatlantic ties for the parties that are currently in the government, which are, of course, the Social Democrats, the Greens and the FDP. So, Peter Beyer, I am correct in saying that you are still the transatlantic coordinator. How come?
That is correct. How come? I don't know. I'm still in this position since April 2018, and I think the true reason is only that the coalition, which is now governing Germany, has not yet agreed on a successor to me, so I still have that position.
What kind of signals are you getting from Germany's transatlantic partners since Sunday? Because we mustn't forget that essentially Olaf Scholz, in his declaration to Parliament in this special session on Sunday, essentially turned around decades of German principles when it comes to foreign and security policy. He announced a massive boost for defense spending. He also said that Germany was from now on going to adhere to the 2% NATO goal. How did that go down in Washington and in other countries?
There was a kind of big sigh of relief, said finally the Germans understand that freedom doesn't come without costs. You have to invest, and not only on a moral level, but really with money. You have to contribute, you have to step up to your own security interests. And let me add that I think that way too long Germany has done two things wrongly. First, we were hiding behind our own history, said, well, Germany, weapons, out-of-territory missions, very dangerous, is not the right thing to do. That was wrong. And second thing, which I think we completely misunderstood for many years, is that the Germans would not support, would not understand that if we increase tremendously our defense spendings in the evil weapons, as they are perceived many times, maybe by people. But I think that was wrong. I think would we have stepped up much earlier, turned to our own citizens and explained the stability, the peace and the prosperity that we all enjoy, 82 million Germans in this country, does not come from out of the blue sky. It has to do with security, and we cannot always rely on others, that they spend their taxpayers' money, that they invest in our security, that we have to take up our own responsibility. I think if we would have turned to our citizens earlier, they would have understood that.
Now, you've just said that Germany did too little too late, and that it looks as though it was wrong for Germany to essentially only go for diplomacy and not increase defense spending, for example. Implicitly, you are criticizing Angela Merkel as the German Chancellor, who was in office for 16 years. Did Angela Merkel's Russia strategy fail?
I don't know if it failed. She had a very close relationship, not like friendship, but a close relationship and a good connection to Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin, as we all know, he speaks German. Former German Chancellor Angela Merkel is fluent in Russian. That helped in many situations of tensions, of crisis. So I think she had all reason to use this. And I would not say she did appeasement politics. But in the end, it was not successful. We have to admit that. I think also if we look to Vladimir Putin, over time, he as a person, as an individual, changed. There's always this people are referring to this speech that he held here in the parliament some years ago, I think it was 2007 or 2005 or something, where he made an offer allegedly to us, to the West, that we did not receive. I don't know really if that was true, but I think for a fact we can see the development even in the course of the past weeks of Vladimir Putin. If you look to French President Macron, who also met at the Kremlin as this infamous long table, he was saying, I think he also was public on that, saying, well, he was sitting in front of a changed Russian president as a person. So Angela Merkel, I think she was right to do the things she did. But for example, if you take Nord Stream 2, this Baltic Sea gas pipeline from Russia to Germany,
that bypasses Ukraine.
Exactly. I think it was wrong. Together with an over time increasing group of parliamentarians from my old party, were criticizing that, saying we have to stop that because first we don't need it, the gas. We have to diversify, and it increases dangerously the dependency on Russia. And she was not so much believing in that. So also a good decision now that this government has put a hold to Nord Stream 2. Yes, mistake has been made, but in hindsight, you're always much smarter than in the situation. You have to make decisions.
If we're talking about who made mistakes in the past, we also have to talk about Gerhard Schröder's role. Now, a former chancellor who had very close ties with Vladimir Putin when he was chancellor, and who kept those ties, intensified those ties, and took up important positions after he was no longer chancellor with Russian companies. Gerhard Schröder, to this day, has still not distanced himself. He has condemned what is going on currently in Ukraine, but there are now speculations that if Gerhard Schröder doesn't distance himself and pulls out of all his obligations with Russian companies, that he might even be put on sanctions lists. Should he be put on sanctions lists, Gerhard Schröder?
Gerhard Schröder is a total embarrassment for my country, for Germany. He is a Russian lobbyist. He gets a lot of money for what he's doing as a Russian lobbyist for energy companies that he is not running, but he's sitting in prominent positions that he occupies there. And as we've seen recently, some of his former now employees have voluntarily stepped down and said we do not want to work with him anymore because he has not distanced himself from Vladimir Putin, from the politics, and has not, so these employees, now former employees of Gerhard Schröder, has taken up the consequences. And one would actually expect a former statesman, a former chancellor of the fourth largest economy in this world, called Germany, to take up the responsibility and to be not brave enough, but to show some responsibility, also to show that he has learned. Nobody would blame him for learning, to say, I'm quitting all my responsibilities, all positions that I hold in Russian companies. I don't know if he has still not understood that. I don't know what's going on with this man. But again, it's a total embarrassment. I think, should he be put on sanctions list? Apart from him having been the German chancellor before, everybody who still supports this regime, this dictatorship, this warlord called Vladimir Putin, has to face consequences.
Can you confirm that in Washington there were ideas to put him on sanctions lists?
I could neither confirm nor deny.
What is Germany's newfound investment and engagement in military operations and the willingness to boost our army? What does that mean for other strategically important regions? If we look at other crises that are still going on, the Bundeswehr is also engaged in Mali, in the Sahel, and those mandates are running out very soon. So will this new willingness by Germany to be active and to have a strong military again, will that have consequences for Germany's engagement in Mali?
Decisions have to be made. They're soon coming. So there are voices here that are saying, well, we have to reconcentrate, refocus more on the defense, on the original task of the Bundeswehr to defend this country. If that is the final word on that, I doubt that. But what I absolutely underline is rethink our concepts. It has to do with money. But it is not only about money. It's good to have now more money available soon, but what do we do with that? How do we spend that wisely? Also in close coordination with our NATO allies, with our partners. And also, you're right, we have everything is understandably overshadowed now by Russia's war on Ukraine. But we also have not to take completely out of focus other regions. You mentioned Mali. I should add Indo-Pacific. I mean, the Americans were blamed just 2-3 months ago by you are obsessed with the China, Taiwan and South China Sea Indo-Pacific issue. Maybe they were obsessed, but they were right in alerting us to this region more than ever before. And this government also, the German government, should not take this out of perspective, lose that out of focus. We should still understand that we need to have a presence in the Indo-Pacific, in the South China Sea, to stabilize this there, also as a strong signal to our like-minded states in the region. And nobody should live under the illusion that China's not watching how the West is acting in the situation with the Russian-Ukraine war.
How afraid are you of a world war coming up?
Of a World War III? I'm not afraid of that. But we need to be at least very concerned about the nuclear threat that comes from Moscow. That is really serious. I'm not thinking about a nuclear strike on Berlin, for example. But the option is there. We have to be smart in how we publicly deal with the situation, what messages we send to the Kremlin and to Vladimir Putin. We should not corner Vladimir Putin too much. If this guy is cornered, that he thinks he has nothing else to lose, and he has no other option, so, well, it doesn't matter, I'm not losing anything, then that is a very, very dangerous situation, and we need to be aware of that situation. It's serious. We had a lot of intelligent information from our services as well as from intelligence service of our friends that this situation is, as I just indicated, and much, much more is going on. So that is something that people should be concerned of. World War III, I doubt that. That is the reason, if you looked at the State of the Union speech of U.S. President Joe Biden, the last one, where he addressed that, and he again said that there will be no U.S. or even NATO troops on the ground, and no combat fighters planes over Ukraine. Because that would mean NATO and the West, we would be part of this war, actively combating. Joe Biden said that is not going to happen, but NATO will defend NATO member countries.
Peter Beyer, Transatlantic coordinator for the German government. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.